We're a family operation, so I have a daughter and son-in-law in the operation along with myself and my wife Carol.
And look at that transition from high production to holistic management. The way we're doing it now is a lot more fun. And I think that for what I see in a lot of ranches is that high production model makes it really hard for kids to come home and come back to the ranch, because a lot of times the reality of that is the land is worn out and everybody's tired. They're tired of working, they've been working so hard, and it doesn't have to be like that.
And when I moved back to the farm, had the opportunity to start a small beef herd and lease some additional land next to my parents' operation. And
probably about a dozen years ago, we transitioned and brought our son Luke and his wife Naomi and their family into our business. So we probably got in excess of 1,000 animal units that Luke manages, and not necessarily that we own together, but that he manages. First, I'm going to turn the clock back and talk a little bit about how I was raised. And working around animals, which I've always enjoyed. Our family's always had animals. You know, great-grandfather, grandfather, dad, myself, my son, and hopefully my grandchildren will. Working around animals was always a stressful event as I was growing up. You know, people would get excited and voices would be raised. Cattle would get excited, and they, you know, showed in how they responded to human interaction. So working around animals was never a pleasant experience growing up. And I tried to make the transition, but Luke has finished the transition into making it something that's more enjoyable.
It's probably 2010, I will say, somewhere in there, where we were calving in March. 19th was the date. That's just when we started. You know, heifers started earlier. That was the normal for us and a lot of people around the area. And we were in a calving, and it happened to be a blizzard about the third week in March. And we were starting to get full into calving because they do start a little bit earlier than that. We may have been in the last week in March. And so we were, and our son Christopher was with us there helping, and he was carrying calves in out of the corral as fast as they could come. And we had 2 or 3 barns that we had pens full of cows and calves. We bedded them every day. We cleaned them every day. We had to move them out into other pens. It was just extremely labor intense. And as I watched a cow walk across the corral, and her udder was dragging in the slop. And I'm like, boy, this isn't fun for them or us. So I told Christopher, as he was bringing another calf in, put in a pen, and go get the cow, I said, can you handle this for a little bit? I had to go down and talk to my dad a minute. So I went down, had coffee with my dad, and I said, I got to ask you a question. He said, well, sure. I said, why are we calving now? Can you tell me the reasons why we calve, the middle of March and 1st of April? And he leaned back in his chair and took his coffee, and he said, I got to think about that a minute. And I sat there and drank my coffee and thought I wasn't carrying calves out of the slop anymore. And he says, I think it's because we wanted to be done farming, by a certain date. We'd be done calving so we could go out and do our farming. And plus we thought the calves needed to be a certain weight in October so we could sell them. And he said, so I guess that's probably the reasons why we started calving. And that was probably 50 years prior. And so we'd done it all those years. And I'm like, okay, I think we can remedy those situations, And so that was the day that we decided that, we're not going to do this anymore. This is insane. It's just terrible for us. It's terrible for our animals. We're just not going to do it anymore.
He was paying me what he could afford, but he was going broke. And that's when he started to make these transitions. And we were living on next to nothing, and then we got had a second child, and I told him I was going back to the oil field, and I had already basically packed all my bags and was headed back, and he told me, I'm making this transition and I want to, all my farm ground, I want to put fences around it. But I think my little brother's got a different way of looking at things than I do. How do they even know this stuff already at that age? And it's because they're working with my dad, and he's a lot more laid back, and he'll take the time to explain it and talk to them and tell them why they're doing what we're doing. And I think they're learning that marketing, and I mean, they're learning something that we didn't get to learn along the way. They know when he's why he's marketing a certain group of cattle, when he's doing it, not just because the grass may be short or something, but that's something that I didn't see.
Having a later calving date being more enjoyable for our crew, which is our kids, hopefully that'll be a great experience for them to be able to want to come back to the operation. Whereas it's miserable out, and it's dad's crabby, mom's cranky, it's so cold outside, and it's not real enjoyable. Who wants to pursue that as their life, and their future career? And there is an epidemic of kids not coming back to the operation. Well, why? Is it because they went through in 96, 97? Is it because they went through in 09? Is it, and there's just so much death, and they watch grandpa and they watch dad and they watch mom, and they're like, there is no way I want to live my life like that. I'm gonna go pursue something that doesn't include that.
Yeah, kids not wanting to come back because of stress is, it's the workload. I mean, they can go somewhere else and make so much more money and not carry the stress load is what they're looking at coming out of high school or college. And, our issue now is we got 4 kids that want to come back. And how do you fit them in? Because they've learned to enjoy being there and learned to enjoy being out there with the cattle, and it's rewarding to them. So they get that reward right away. And then the economics work itself out then, where the other kids that I see coming out of that workload and that situation are looking at very minimal returns and lots of work. And so it's harder for them to come back when they can know they could go get a job somewhere and make more money.
Well, the one reason I'm doing this is for my girls. I want to leave this for them. I want to leave a profitable ranch for them. But I'm glad you brought that up, because our oldest girl, she didn't want to be around dad last year. She didn't want to. Ranching was not fun, what she's seen. She did not want to do anything with ranching. Our middle girl is my main right hand. She does everything with me. She was even to the point where, it wasn't enjoyable for them. And so I don't want that for my family. I want to leave a ranch that they want to come back to. They want to stay here and continue on and, do what I love. I'm hoping that with me making all the changes is something it's something they are on board with, because they helped us come up with our mission and vision statement and so I'm finally going to where they see the ranch going with just being a better overall, something that they're going to want to take over.
Our biggest goal this year in May calving is to have the kids with us the whole time, as much as they can when they're not in school. We want them to learn to actually enjoy ranching. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, is why our kids aren't coming back, is why would they want to? After they saw what we and our parents have gone through for all these years, and the nightmare storms that nearly wipe us out, why would they want to? Why would they want to work that hard for what we're doing? By May calving, we know that we can make life enjoyable again. Ranching can be enjoyable.